There is something profoundly wrong with all of this. With all of this, I'm referring to much of the material that I have put forward thus far. And that is simply this. I've tried to expound on some of my thoughts on the structure of human consciousness, illustrate to some degree the complexities thereof, and in so doing indicate that these complexities are universally true.
I wish I could express to you what it feels like to regard thoughts as real, to regard them as vital, vibrant, real things. The distinctions between expression and self-expression, whether we're trying to express the idea or whether we're trying to express our impression of the shape of ourselves, it's very, very muddled when the subject at hand is something like philosophy of mind or theory of consciousness, philosophy in general. Along the way, we've utilized some fairly circuitous means. And I think that's ultimately what's wrong with this. Let's presume for the moment that the impetus to pursue philosophy in this manner is not something that is causeless. That being to say that there is some personal motivation which drives the action, and that while those motivations may not be entirely known to us, neither are they entirely hidden. No less real than the media we use to express them or record them, no less real than the applications that we turn them towards, no less real than that which creates them.
There is an inherent duplicity involved in utilizing such models or representing such models as the structure of the ideas that they support.
Here we run very quickly into questions of desire, questions regarding what the object of desire is, in this case, that which is being pursued, but also more problems of the general nature of desire, that being that what we seek is not necessarily what we want, and what we want is not necessarily that which will address the needs that we seek to address. And here we must entertain some degree of skepticism on the self's ability to accurately report these relations.
The problem, in essence, is this. However eruditely I might express a given structure of ideas about the general arrangement of human thought, and how this reflects back on the relationship between the person and their environment, their relationship between themselves and other people, or their relationship between themselves and their concept of themselves. These models do not represent the process wherein the ideas themselves were gained.
If I could but explain what it is to find oneself wandering through the landscape of another's personhood as an unseen observer. If I could explain it, be understood, be believed, given the ambiguous bounds between the self and the subject at hand, between the observer and the observed here, we have a difficult time really nailing down here whether we're regarding one's views on the subject at hand or one's desire to express their own nature.
What I find personally unsettling about the impact that has on the presentation of the idea or the way that people may synthesize the ideas into their own is that it seems that this results in a coldness, a mechanistic property fairly inherited from the largely mechanical means wherein the idea was imparted. But these ideas are not mechanistic. These ideas are not mechanical. They are not cold. They are certainly analytical, but there's nothing necessarily or innately cold about analysis.
Something striking about the proposition that one would engage in public discourse, writing, etc., on philosophy of the self for the sake of expressing one's views on the subject, is that this explanation provides us no real clarity on why one was engaged in the subject of the philosophy of self in the first place. It provides no connection to an intrinsic motivating factor that would drive one to study the subject or even seriously ask the questions. If I could but explain how quaint these constructions of language are. And there we are, perhaps, getting a little closer to a resolution of the question that is currently before us.
Nothing brittle or crystalline necessarily about analysis, not when a human being is involved in it.
The complex interplay between one's views on the subject and the degree to which one themselves is the subject, including their views.
This too is an idea that I've tried to express, but again, recognize that there's a recursive irony here, that expressing the innate and inherent humanity of the ways in which human beings engage in everything that they do, analysis included,
that others find them so necessary and view them as inevitable, almost to the point where many would regard the shaping of our thoughts as we make them condescend to language. We would make that act of condescension the entirety. We would say that that's all there is. How curious. How very curious.